Hey guys, in this tutorial we will work with Google Firebase and React. So for those who don't know what Google Firebase is, this is it's like a backend database. It's like a database which provides you with APIs, so you can use these APIs on your front-end apps. I built a React.js app which is using Google Firebase APIs. So as you see here, I have a login form, and then there's enter. This is the submission, a button for submission. Then on the right side, I have the register button. Now, if I click on the register button, pay attention to the forms title and then the submit button. That they're gonna change, switch. So I click register, and it switches to the registration form. Now, if I click login again, it switches back to the login form. Now, on firebase.google.com, here you have to log in. I will walk you through all the process on how to create a project, but I just want to show you where my users are. So I just went to my Google Firebase console, and then there's one of my projects. So if I click on authentication, I have a user list here. It's taking a while, so I have 3 users right now. Now on my login form, if I'm trying to log in, let's say some random data here, I click enter. It tells me the email address is badly formatted. So that means that, all these errors are coming from Google Firebase. It's not something that's coming from my React app. So even if I add here gmail.com and press enter, it tells me there is no user record corresponding to this identifier. The user may have been deleted. So all these notifications are coming from Google Firebase. Now, if we go back here, we can see that there is a user. I'm gonna use a user, say Vicon Media. So come here, paste the correct email and then the password, and if I click enter, it's gonna redirect me to the home page. Even if I refresh the page, it's gonna redirect me back to the home page. Now pay attention here. I refresh the page, and for a second, it shows the login form. That's because until my app is receiving. Until it doesn't receive the data from Google Firebase, it shows that login form. So it takes a bit until it gets the data from Firebase, which is letting my app know if the user is logged in or not. Now here I have a logout button. If I click on the logout, it logs me out, and it's happening everything in the browser. It's not something that's loading another new page here. You don't see any loading or anything like that. Even if I click on the register button, it's still the same page. And now to register a user, just to show you how it works. So let's say I'm gonna register a user, which is gonna be admin1, and here say gmail.com. Doesn't really matter. You can use any email you want. They don't have to be registered on Gmail. So as a password, I'm gonna use a random password. Click register, and it's gonna tell me that the password should be at least 6 characters. So I'm gonna put 1 2 3 4 5 6. Okay. If I press register, it's gonna redirect me to the home page. It's gonna register the user, of course, and it's gonna redirect me to the home page. Now here, if I refresh this list, you will see that there's a new user, which is admin1@gmail.com, and it was created on June 2nd and signed in June 2nd, and there's the user UID. Now here I'm gonna click Logout. And from here, let's go ahead and get started building our app. Now, I'm gonna create another React app. So I'm gonna go under cd. And then here, work React. Now here I'm gonna type in create React app, and then here let's say login Firebase. I'm gonna press enter, and this is gonna take a while. And while this is installing, let's access the Firebase, Google Firebase. Okay, now on this page you have to log in, and then after you logged in, you have to click on this go to console button. You click there. Now, as for right now, this is the interface Google provides, but at the time you may watch this video, this pages is that they may have a different design, but the logic should be the same. So on this, you have a button which is saying add project. Here we'll have a list of your projects, but if you don't have any, just create another project and name it, I don't know, let's say Firebase tutorial. And then project ID, use the default settings for sharing Google Analytics for Firebase data. Okay, accept it, create project. This is gonna take also a while because this Firebase is a very powerful tool. Okay, let's click continue, and then here you may want to go under settings. If you see an icon here on the left side, which right next to project overview, under settings, project settings, and if you go down, there are no apps in your project, so you might want to click on the I don't know if what you're building, but I'm working on a web right now, so I'm gonna create a web app. So I choose a nickname for your app, let's say Firebase app. I also set up Firebase hosting with this app. Okay, I'm not gonna check that. Register app. And now here is the credentials for our app. So let's check our app. So I'm gonna just pause the video until this React app is gonna be installed, and then I'll continue from there. Okay, so my app has been installed. Now I'm gonna close this and I'm gonna open my Visual Studio. I'm gonna stop the npm for now because this I left it like that because I was showing you the demo. Now here under I'm gonna add a folder so I can work with. Under React, our project is Login Firebase, so I'm gonna add this one to my Visual Studio. Now here I say npm, actually I should navigate, so cd I'll say Firebase login Firebase. Okay, so now here I'm gonna type in npm start, so I'll start the local machine. Now this one actually I'm gonna close it. I'm gonna close this tab as well. So here is gonna open another tab which is gonna load my new React app. It's taking a while because this Node.js is also very powerful and it's using a lot of my computer resources. Now here we can see that the React app is installed. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna open my project under public folder in the index.html file. I'm gonna clean up these comments from here. I'll just remove them like that. I'll save it. You don't have to do that. I'm just doing it because I want my code to be clean. And then here under sources folder, this open app.js file, and I'm gonna delete the logo SVG from here and everything I have in my div class app, and I'll save it like that. Actually here I'm gonna just leave div. Okay, save it. Hi, save it for now. Now if I go back, we can see that we have just hi for now. So I also want to delete the logo SVG file. Okay, cool. Now what we want to do is we want to create a configuration file. So in our Firebase app we have all this there's a JavaScript which is this is the configuration to our database, this is the API key, auth, domain, database URL, project ID, storage bucket. So we want to use all this data in order to connect to our Firebase project. So in our app under source folder, I'm gonna create a new folder which is gonna be config Okay, and then in this folder I'm gonna create another file which is gonna be fire.js. Now here in fire.js I'm gonna paste a component. So we import Firebase from Firebase. Actually, I forgot to do something, so I'm gonna stop the machine, stop it, and I forgot to install the Firebase. There is an npm package which is the Firebase, so you just install it and use it. So I'm just gonna type in here npm install -- save and then Firebase. Press enter. And this is gonna also take a while, so I'm just gonna pause the video, guys. Okay, so the Firebase is installed. Now let's start the Node.js. Let's start the local machine again. So npm start. Okay, I close the old tab. Now this is a new tab. So it's kind of slow. Okay, so everything works fine. Now here in our fire.js file, we want to add all the parameters for our project. So if we go back to Firebase console, let's copy the API key. But actually, I was explaining here. So we import the Firebase from Firebase. Now we have a constant, which is the config, and this config constant has all the data for our Firebase project. Now below that we use this, we assign everything to another constant, which is the fire. So we have fire constant, we assign the Firebase initialize app. This is all coming from that package we installed, which is the Firebase package. So we assign the Firebase initialize app with the configuration from our config constant. That's a variable. So all this data, we initialize app with all this data. And then after that, we just export by default the fire component. So here, let's go ahead and paste everything we have in our source code. So there's the API key. I'm gonna copy it from here. You can pause the video and copy everything, or you can check the description because I'm gonna leave a link to the source code, so you can take it from there. So and then we have the auth domain. Let's copy it, paste it there. The next one is database URL. So this is the database URL. Paste it there. Project ID. Okay, next one is the storage bucket. And there you go. Messaging sender ID. Okay, paste it there, and then the API ID. Alright, I'm gonna save this file. Now let's go back to our app.js file and let's import this Fire file, which has the configuration. So import Fire from, and here we have config/fire. Okay, now here we have we should have here an object. We should have a class. So I'm gonna delete the stuff from here, and I will type in class app extends component. And now here where we import React, we may put a comma and then add component in the following way. Okay, now here in our class, in our app class, we will have a constructor. And then here we will have let's say stopper. This is for our state, and then here we'll have this state. It's gonna be an object, and then we have here the user object is gonna be null. We will use this state because whenever we will call the Firebase API, we will assign to this state, we'll update this state with the data from Google Firebase. So as long as we won't have anything in our user state, that means that the user is not logged in. And then below this, we want to, let's say we will have an auth listener. So we will create an auth listener, which is going to be called by the component did mount. So if you guys don't know the basic about React, I do recommend you to read more about component did mount, component will mount, component did mount, and all this predefined. These are kind of functions, you can say methods. They're by React. So I do recommend you to read more about them. So here we will have an auth listener. So auth listener, and then here I'm actually gonna paste this is a predefined code. This is from Google Firebase. So we have fire. We use this data from our configuration file. Fire. We use the auth method, which comes from the Firebase, and then on auth state change user. So whenever the user state is changing, we are checking here. There's an if statement. So if user, if there's anything in the user, then we want to update this state with the data from user. So we're updating the state. Else, we just make the user object null. So if there is anything, if this on auth state change, if it assigns anything to our user, we actually get all this data. We will get it from our login component, because we will create another login component, and there is, you'll see there, you'll understand there how all this stuff works. Okay, so now here we have the auth listener. We get the auth listener. Now we have our component. We should have our component did mount. And then here we just call this auth listener. And now below our listener, we should have our render. So we have render. And then in our render, we will have return. And in our return, now here we will have a div, because we have to wrap everything we have in our return here, and this is JSX. So we have div, and then we close the div. Now here what we will return. So we should create two more components. We should create here two more components. And one component should be the home component, and then the other one should be the login and register. That component, login register component, is gonna show either the registration or the login form, depending on what buttons we will click there. So here we will have an if statement. So we will check this state user. So if we have anything in our user state, which means if the Firebase assigned anything to our user state, probably I got it too early to this step, but you will understand in a minute, because I'm gonna create the login component, and you'll understand what I mean by this if. So if there is anything assigned from the Firebase, from Google Firebase, any data assigned to our user state, then we want to show the home. Let's see, home component. If not, then we want to show the login register component, like that. And then after that, we just export default app. Okay, I'm not gonna save it, because it's gonna compile it. So let's go ahead and create another folder under our source folder. In our source folder, let's create a folder, and let's name it components. Now in this folder, let's create our which one is that? The login register. So here, new file, login register.js. Now here in this file, we will have also an object. So I'm actually gonna close this file. We won't need it. So I will copy everything from our app.js and paste it in our login register.js. Now here in our, we want to remove the let's remove the import app CSS, and then in our let's say this class is gonna be login register. It needs to match this name from here, so I'll just copy and paste it just to make sure everything is correct. Now let me delete everything from here. Okay, so here we will have a constructor, and this constructor is gonna have props. Okay, now here let's say super props, and then here we have this state. Now we define our states, and here we will have the email. This is gonna be the data the user is gonna type in our form. So this is gonna be the email, which is empty by default, and then we will have the password. This is also empty, and then we will have fire errors. We will save here. In the fire errors, here we will save the errors which will come from Google Firebase. So whenever we will log in, somebody's gonna try to log in with a wrong email or password. This is where we will save the error from Google, which is gonna say the user doesn't exist, or the password is incorrect, or things like that. And then below we will have login button, and this is gonna be true. Basically, we will use this button to check if the user clicked on the register button or not. So if this is true, it means the user didn't click on the register button. Whenever user is gonna click on the register button, this is gonna be false. So using this statement from here, we will be able to show either the login or the register button. Now here in our render, in our return, we want to have here is gonna be our form. So we will have a div class name, and I'm gonna name this one the form block. Now all this CSS from here, I'm gonna paste it in. I'll show you. We will have to paste in our app CSS file. And I'll paste their CSS code just to save time, guys. I'm explaining the main functionality from here, but you are more than welcome to download the source code from my GitHub. So we have here the div class name form block, and there's gonna be another div ID, which is gonna be the title. This is gonna be the form title, and then here it's gonna be the state. We actually missed the state from here. Under fire errors, we should add another state, which is gonna be the form title, like this. So here where we have our form title, here is gonna be our state, the form title state, and here we will give it a name by default. So let's say we will put form title is gonna be login, and here we will put this state form title. Okay, now below we should have our, it's gonna be another div class name, and this is gonna be the body. Okay, like this, and then here we will have our form, and here we will have two fields. Let's say, so we will have input type text, and then here we will have value. It's gonna be the state is gonna be the email state, so we'll have this state email, and then below on change. So on change, whenever somebody was gonna type in any kind of characters in this field, we will call a handler change. So we'll create another method which is gonna save all the data the user is typing in this field. So we have on change, and there's gonna be a method from the same class. So we have this handle change, and then the input name is gonna be email. Okay, make sure you close it here because it's recommended by React. You'll see some errors in the console if you don't do this. And then below we will have another field which is gonna be for the password. So we just change input type password, and then here password, and handle change. This handle change is gonna be the same. Handle change and name is gonna be password. Okay, now here below we will have a button, which is gonna be the submit button. So let's say input type submit. There's gonna be a class name, and the class name is gonna be login button, and then the on click. So whenever we will click on this button, this is gonna call another method. But before I do that, let's say, so we have this class name, and then the value is gonna be enter. Okay, let me save this. App.js. It's compiling right now, as you see here in my terminal. So login register is not defined. Okay, because we didn't export it, so I'm gonna copy the name from here wherever we have. If you copy it and pasted everything from app.js, make sure you export it as login register. Otherwise, it's not gonna work. So we go back, refresh it. Type and component lifetime method declaration. Home is not defined. Login register is not defined. Okay, now here, let's create. Oh, we didn't import them here, of course. So in our app.js, let's import the login register from components / login register, and we want to do the same thing for home. We didn't create this component yet, so in our components folder, let's create another file which is going to be home.js. Okay, and now let's save this app.js, and we still have an error here. Let me see what's that error about. So if we refresh it, search for the keyword to learn more about. Okay, line 16, type in the component lifecycle method declaration. React, no typos. Okay, so there's something wrong with the. Okay, so this needs to have an lowercase I in the component did mount. Sorry about that, guys. Now it cannot find the file. So import fire from config fire. So that's because we copied everything from app.js and pasted in our login register.js file, and it cannot find this Firebase file. So what we should do is like we should add here something like that. Actually, wait. So we are in our components, we go back one step, and then from there config. Okay, let's save this. Let's save the file and see what happens. Okay, so we do have the form now. Alright, let me just add the style. So in our app.css, I'm gonna remove everything from here, and I'm gonna paste a new CSS file. So what we have here is a form block. This is the form block, and then the title. There's the title ID from our. This is just CSS and HTML basically stuff. Form block body, and then the input styling, login button here, register button. We didn't add a register button yet in the error, but just for now I'm gonna leave it like that. So I'm just gonna save it, and if we go back now, we can see that we have our form a little bit styled here. We have fields now. There's the form title. No, this is the. It looks better now than it used to look before. So what's next? Now we have our form here. We have the states. We should now we should create this handle change method. So let's go ahead and create it under our construct, and then there we should have the we should have actually two, but let's create one for the I'm a mistake. So let's create the handle change. We'll use ES6 here, and then we have the event. Okay, now we have this state. Okay, this set state. So what we do here is whenever somebody is typing in anything in any of these fields, these two fields, this handle change is gonna be called. So if I just type in just number 1, it's gonna be called. If I type in as many letters as I type in, that many times this form this handle change is gonna be called. So this handle change is gonna update the state. It's gonna update the state comparing to what field we're typing in the information to, in what field we're typing in the information. So we have set state here, and then here we update the event target. Oops. Name. So we get the field name. As you see, we have the email name and then the password names and everything here. This is detecting e target, and then we actually should have here like this. We target name, so we get the field name, and then next is the e. Wait. Okay, it looks better now. So we get a field ID, field name, and we update the state, which has the same field name, which now has email and password, these two. Okay, let me check one more time. E target name. Okay. All right, everything looks good now, and we should add another on click event here to our submit button, because we want to call a method which is gonna save all this data and send it to Google Firebase. So in our input type submit line here, where we have our line, we want to type in on click. So whenever somebody's gonna click on the submit button, we will call another method which is gonna be in this class, and it's gonna be called login. Okay, let's go ahead and create our login method. So here we have login. We use ES6. Okay, now here we want to prevent the event. So whenever somebody's gonna click on that button, we type in here e prevent default. Whenever somebody's gonna click on the submit button, which is enter, the form is not gonna load, so the page is not gonna load whenever they submit that button. That's why we use this one. This is gonna stop it from loading the form, prevent default. And now below here I'm gonna paste, this is a pretty fine Firebase code, so I paste it like that. So we use the fire object, we use the data configuration from our fire object, and then we use the auth. Then actually this is not the correct one. It needs to be here, sign in with email. We have this sign in with email and using this state email and then this state password. So we're using the email and the password from our state, because after we type in everything in our form, everything is being saved in our state. And then after we submit, we click on the submit button, this method is being called, and then this method is calling the Fire object. The Firebase is calling the Google Firebase using the email and password from our state. Now if it catches any errors, we update the fire error state. So you see set state, update the fire error state with the error message. Okay, let's save it. Save it and let's go back and see everything works fine. Let's try to type in something. Click enter. There's an error. So that's because we were not outputting the errors. We're not outputting the errors in our. It should be above our form. Let's see. So in our render method, we should have a variable which is gonna be error notifications. Let's say notification, and then here this. So here we will have like an if statement. We will check if there's anything in our fire errors state, if there's anything in here, like if it catches any errors. So we have state fire errors. Then here we want to output the error, not to output that we assign the error to the error notification. So we will have a div class name in our app CSS. I already pasted the CSS code there. So we have div class name error. Okay, div class name needs to be capital letter, and then here we have this, open the curly braces, and we have this state, and then what's there, fire errors. Okay, something like that. If there is anything in our fire errors state, then we just make it null. We don't assign anything to the error notification variable. Now using this variable, we can output the errors above our form. So here we'll have error notifications. Now if we save it and then we go back, I'm not sure if it refreshed, but if I click enter, now we can see the errors coming from Google Firebase, because it catches errors here. Now if I say enter something, it's still saying the given sign-in provider is disabled for this Firebase project. Enable it in the Firebase console under the sign-in method tab of the Auth section. So let's go back to our Firebase tutorial and click here continue to console, and then let's go to authentication on the left side here, and then wherever we have, there should be authentication, the message users from a variety of providers without server-side code. Let's set up sign-in method, and then here where is the email and password, click on this edit icon, and then let's enable all users to sign up using their email address and password. Our SDKs also provide email address verification, password recovery, and email address change. So let's enable this, and then email link passwordless sign in. I'm not sure about that, but let's save this one and see what happens. So if we go back and click enter now, there is no user record corresponding to this identifier. The user might have been deleted. So we don't have any user right now. Let's go back to authentication tab, and we don't have any users here. So let's go ahead and create one. Here let's put admin@mail.com, and then password, let's say 1 2 3 4 5 6 ones. add user. And now if we go back, we have admin, and then here what was there, mail.com, and then we have 1 2 3 4 5 6. If I press enter, it redirects me to home, but because we don't have anything in the home, it's gonna throw this error: element type is invalid, expected string. So if I refresh it, it's showing the same thing. I'm just gonna remove this user. Okay, let's delete it. So if I refresh it now, it should work now, because I delete the user and it doesn't receive any data anymore. So what happens here is, in our app.js file, we have this if statement. So if there's any, whenever we log in, if everything is correct here, if it didn't catch any error, then this Firebase is gonna redirect us. Where it actually, if everything is correct, it assigns, as you see here in our auth listener, it assigns data to our user user object here, and then here we check. We check if our Firebase has any data in the user object. We assign the state, we set the state. So this user is by default coming, all this data coming from Firebase to you, and then we are just checking the user. If there's anything coming from Firebase, we update the state. If it's not, we just make it null. And then here below in our return section here, we check if there's anything in the user's state, then we show the home page. That's what happened, but we don't have anything in the home page and home.js file. That's why it throws an error. And then if it's not, then it's gonna show the login form. So what we want to do here, let's go ahead and create our home file, and here we want to import React and the component from React, and then here we want to import Fire from config/fire. Okay, now below here we'll have a class home. Make sure you choose the name home, as you have it here. We have it there because this is what's going to be exported. So we have home extends component, and then we have the render, and then we have return, and here we will have a div. This is going to be a wrapper, and here we will say h1, let's say you are home. Well, let's say welcome home, welcome back, just home page. Okay, let's save it now like this. Let's check one more time. So I'm gonna refresh it. Home doesn't contain the file. Okay, we didn't export it, forgot to export it here, so we have export default home. Okay, save it. Still it throws an error because it can't find it cannot find the fire. Oh, it's because I didn't go a step back. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Okay, so we refresh the page, everything works fine. If we go under users, let's create another user. So let's put admin1 at mail.com, and here we have 1 2 3 4 5 6 once. Add user. We go back, and we don't even have to refresh it, but let's see what was there. Admin1. So admin1 at mail.com, and then here 1 2 3 4 5 6. If I press enter, there's no user corresponding to this identifier. Oh, I'm misspelling here on this side. I'm gonna paste it there, click enter, and now see it redirects us to the home page. Now on the home page we have home page here, of course. Now if I refresh it, it still shows the home page here. It shows the login form until it receives the data from Google Firebase. Now we want to add a logout button here. So there's gonna be a button, and whenever we click on this button, this is gonna call a method, which is gonna be in this class, which is gonna this method is gonna be logout. Okay, so we'll have logout like that. Now let's go ahead and create a method. It should be above the render. So we have logout, we're using ES6 here, and then we have fire, because we're using fire auth, and then here we call the sign out method from the Firebase. So sign out like that. Let's save it. If we go back now, you see that there's a button here. You can style it. I didn't style the button, didn't install the home page yet. I'm focusing on the login and registration form right now, guys. But if you wanna, it's just like a basic example. You can just change it, do whatever you want. So now if I click on the logout button, it's gonna redirect me to the login form. Now pay attention that everything happens in the browser. It's not loading a new page. It's not doing anything like that. So let's check one more time. If I paste it here, look at this circle, it doesn't appear to load. Page doesn't load. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If I click enter, everything happens in the same, it's on the same page. It's everything happening in the browser. If I click logout, it doesn't load the page. It loads just what it needs to be re-rendered. So this is the beauty about React.js. Now what we want to do is we want to create, let's add a register button. So let's go back to our login register. Now here I'm gonna make some changes. Now whenever we click, just trying to think a little bit here. Okay, we should add our register button on the right side because we don't have it right now. There should be a button which is gonna say register. So let's go ahead and create it. Let's add it there. Actually, it's gonna be a button. So it's gonna have a class name, and the class name is gonna be register button. It's gonna say register. Okay, let's save it. Let's go back and take a look, and we see our register button is right there. Now the thing about these buttons is that even this title is that whenever I will click on the register button, this button needs to change. Like the form title needs to change. This register button needs to say login, and then the enter button needs to say register. So to do that, we will use our state. If you remember, we created a login button and we assigned it true to the login button. This is the state. So we will use this state to output these buttons from here. So for right now, I am gonna go in our render method above, let's say below. It's gonna be better below. So here we will have another variable, and this variable is gonna be, let's start working with submit button. So we'll have submit button, and we will assign either an enter or a register button here. So here we will check, and we will check this state login, say this state login button. So if the login button state is true, because by default it is true, then we will assign the enter button, because that means that's the login form. So here we will have JSX, and we will say here, say input. Okay, so I'm just trying to think. So input class name, and the class name is gonna be login button. Login button, and then here we'll have type, which is gonna be submit, and then we will have actually there is we'll have the on click event, because here the on click event is login, so we'll have on click. Here's gonna be this login, and then the value, it's gonna say enter, and then we close it like this. Otherwise we will paste here the we will assign the register button. So if this state is false, that means we clicked on the register button. So this is gonna now here is we will assign the register button. So I'm just gonna copy all the stuff from here, I'll paste it like that, and wherever we have class name, type, submit, on click, this is gonna be register. So we will have to create another register method as we did for the login. Okay, and then the value is gonna be register. Alright, now wherever we have our submit button, we want to delete everything from here and just paste submit button variable, because this variable is gonna output either the enter, the login button, or the register button. Okay, so if I'm gonna save it now. If we go back, we can see that there's enter button, but for some reason it made it so long, I don't know why. Okay, so that's because in our on click here is JavaScript, so we should remove this. This method needs to be called, so we have to add curly brackets. Okay, so if we go back, I actually didn't save it, so if we save it and go back now, it's still showing me this. I don't understand why. Let's go back and check it. So we have register, on click, type, submit. Hey guys, I'm sorry about that. I'm spelling, it's kind of late and I can't see even everything I'm typing in it. So this needs to be submit, because I misspell it right now. It's submit. So submit needs to be submit. Okay, let's save it, go back, and now if we refresh it, we see the enter button and then the register button. But nothing happens if I click on the register button yet. And if we check our console, we should see that there is some. Actually, there isn't any error for now, but it doesn't happen anything because we don't have any functionality yet for the register button. Now what we want to do, we want to do the same thing for the register button. So right below our submit button variable, we'll have another one. It's gonna be let login register. Login register, and here we'll have also an if statement. So if this state login button, then here we want to, so we'll have JSX. So if the login button is true, then we want to show the register button. So by default we want to show the register button, but if it's not true, if it's false, that means we clicked on the register button, so we want to show the register button. We want to show the login button on the right side. So I'm gonna paste the code here, and I'm gonna explain. So we have the button, class name, register button, and then on click we will call another method which is gonna be get action. I'm just gonna remove this one for now. I don't want to confuse you guys. Okay, so we have button, class name, register. Alright, if this login button is false, then we will assign the login button. That's everything on the right side. So we're working with this button right now. Okay, everything looks good. Now here, wherever we have our button, we want to use this variable login register underscore register. Okay, I'm gonna save it. And okay, now it's still not gonna work because we should create another method. We don't have any method right now here. So now we should create a method which is gonna detect if we click on this register button. So if we click on this register button, we will update the state. We will update the login button to false. So let's do that now. Okay, so if the register button by default is gonna show register because login button it's true. Now here we'll have on click, and this is of course will is on JavaScript here. So we have parentheses, and then here we'll have this, and then we will create a method which is going to be get action. So we will know using the get action, we will send a parameter which is going to be even reg, or like registration, or login. So we will know on which button we clicked. So we have right now here get action, and here it's gonna be, I'm just gonna make it like an abbreviation from reg from registration, and then the same thing is gonna be under the login button. Here we'll have login. Now let's go ahead and create our get action method. So right below our login method here, we will have get action, and this is the action, this is the parameter. This action here is the parameter from here. And then in our, we are using ES6 here. So here we'll have an if statement, which is gonna check if the action it's equal to registration reg, which is reg. Then here we want to set the state. We want to update the states. So we'll have this set state, and we want to update the form title, login button to false, and then the fire errors to empty, because if we have any errors here, we're trying to log in and it's saying this user doesn't exist. If the user wants to register, whenever they click on the register button, that error from there needs to disappear. Like this error needs to disappear whenever we click on the register button. So here, this is what we will do. We have the form title, and we assign to the register new user. Now here login button, it's gonna be false, and then we have the fire errors, and they are gonna be empty too. Okay, otherwise, else if this action is not reg, it means it's login, of course, but we don't have to add again if statement here. I'm gonna paste it here, the same line, same code, but I'll just change the form title to login, and then this on the login button is gonna be true, and errors is gonna be empty, because even if we're trying to register and click on the login button, the errors needs to disappear either way. Okay, now everything looks fine. Let's see, we have all this statement here. Let's see, now this buttons functionality needs to work. So if we click right now on the register button, this form title needs to change on the button from here as well. So if we click register, we can see that the form title is changing, and then the button from here is changing too. Now if I click on the login, it needs to switch back. So it works, everything works fine. Okay, now what we should do is we should create the register method, because we are able to log in, but we're not able to register. You see, if I click, it loads the page, and in the get method we get all these variables, which is not, we should prevent the events and stuff like that the way we did for the login. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna copy the login method, and right below it I'll paste it. Okay, let me just clean it up a little bit. So we get like that, like this, fire, so if it catches any errors, we update the state. Okay, so, and this needs to be register. Alright, so whenever we click on the register, like for example, we fill up the form here with some stuff and click on the register button, this method is gonna be fired. It's gonna be called. So we will prevent the events, prevent default events, so it's not the page is not gonna load. And then here we'll just change where we have sign in. We should type in there should be create user, like that. And then we create user with the email and password the user typed in that form. Otherwise, if it catches any errors, we update the Firebase error. So I'm gonna save it like that. Let's see if everything should work now. Actually, because I'm seeing we're pretty much done. So if I go back now, we refresh the page. Let's see if we can log in. Under our authentication, we have this user. So just make sure everything works. So paste the user there, 1 2 3 4 5 6 once. Click enter. It redirects us to the home page. Even if we refresh, I already explained why that login form is popping up for a second. Now if we click on the logout, you can put a spin there. You can put, like, you see I refresh it and it is popping up. You can change this code and you can put a spin. There is a way to hide it, which is, that spin is gonna show the user that the data, we're waiting for the app to load the data from the API or from Google Firebase or from wherever you have your backend. Now if we click here on the logout button, okay, everything works fine. Let's click on the register button and then we switch the form to the register user. Now we switch the button from left side, so you see the login. See, it works now. So click on the register. Let's register a new user. Let's say reguser@mail.com and the password, let's say 123456. Okay, let's make it 5 and click register. We can see the password should be at least 6 characters. So we see that these errors are coming from Firebase. Everything works fine till now. So I'm gonna add another character here. Click register, and we see that it redirects us to the home page, which means the user has been created. And if I refresh it on Firebase, I can see there is a new user, which is reguser@mail.com. Now if I click logout and I'm trying to log in with this user, it should work. So I have 1 2 3 4 5 6. Press enter. Everything works fine. And then logout button as well. Okay guys, that's it for this tutorial. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments. I'll do my best to help you out, or if I'm not gonna respond there's gonna be somebody else who may know the answer and they'll be able to help you out too, because we're like a community. So this is the reason I'm sharing with you guys, because everybody is learning. I'm learning too, and you are learning too, and I'm just sharing with you what I'm learning. So it is what it is. Thank you very much for your attention, guys, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.